going on, everybody? C4 here, and pretty much hand in hand with my last video that I talked about the MVP race, we now know our top 3 Heisman finalists, and what they have done on the season is between Bryce Love, Lamar Jackson, and Baker Mayfield. And if you look anywhere on social media, I've even asked you guys the question, and I think it was 80%, and it seems like the general consensus is that Baker Mayfield is running away with it for the Heisman Trophy this season. And I was like, yeah, personally, I would give it to Baker Mayfield as it stands right now. But once I started talking about the NFL MVP race, and pretty much the top 3 between Carson Wentz, Tom Brady, and Russell Wilson, a lot of people, obviously, the team with the better record right now is both the Patriots and the Eagles by Carson Wentz and Tom Brady, respectively. Then you have the people that say, well, Russell Wilson should get it because even though his record's not as good, his team's not as good, he is the offense. If it wasn't for him, they would not survive. And, that kind of got me thinking into college football. First things first, let's just analyze Bryce Love. Again, it's a quarterback race now, unless the running back puts up godly numbers. He put up 2,000 yards from scrimmage and 17 total touchdowns. And we've kind of seen in years past running backs with that kind of stat line not even get brought into the ceremony. I mean, Jesus, throwing shade at Saquon Barkley, not even inviting him to the ceremony. I mean, I get he wasn't going to win, but I still feel like having him as a finalist, he doesn't even have that on his resume because Saquon Barkley has been simply incredible. So has Bryce Love. But, I mean, he's clearly the third guy. He doesn't really have a chance in hell of winning this. But respect to him, man. Stanford was worried that after Christian McCaffrey declared and got drafted by the Carolina Panthers that they would be down a little bit. There's some of us, I actually remember me and after the draft, me and another dude that's actually, I think, a Stanford fan, were saying, man, don't sleep on Bryce Love, man. When this guy filled in, had limited touches behind Christian McCaffrey, I mean, he still had big games. He still averaged 7 yards a carry last season as a backup. And, I mean, maybe didn't foresee this type of season, but all credit to Bryce Love. But now let's talk about the 2 big dogs. That is Baker Mayfield on the Oklahoma Sooners, and you have Lamar Jackson, the 2016 Heisman Trophy winner. And, again, when you look at the total combined stats of these 2 players, it's pretty close. Baker Mayfield essentially has 4,600 total yards, including his passing yards and rushing yards, 46 touchdowns, 5 turnovers, but his team's 12-1, and they're well on their way in the college football playoffs to very well win the national championship. When you look at Lamar Jackson, he has 4,900 total yards, combined passing and rushing, 42 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. His record's 8-4, and his team's going to the Tax Slayer Bowl. But the point I'm trying to make is essentially the argument, should Lamar Jackson, in terms of the Heisman, be kind of viewed the same as Russell Wilson in terms of the MVP? Both these guys have really untouchable numbers. I think maybe in terms of total touchdowns, you got Drew Lock from Mizzou. I think he has 40-some. But I think right now, head and shoulders, they're the 2 most prolific quarterbacks in college football in terms of their stats. Because, I mean, guys like Rosen, Darnold, who are going to get drafted fairly, fairly high, didn't put up these kind of godly numbers. But when you look at the 2 teams, who means more to their team? Who is more valuable to their team? And I'm not going to discredit either one of them. I think that it's one of the scenario where you say, if you take Baker Mayfield off Oklahoma, you take Lamar Jackson out of Louisville, both those teams are drastically worse. But who is bigger? When you look at Oklahoma, they still had Rodney Anderson, who really looked like a mini Joe Mixon this year, could do it all. Prolific wide receiver, CeeDee Lamb. You have maybe the best tight end in football in Mark Andrews. And you have a defense that has quite a few draftable players. The Okoronkwo is a really good edge rusher. You have a couple corners there. But even let's just keep it on the offense. You have Orlando Brown, who's going to be probably first-round tackle. You have Power, who I think is a Garrett, who next year will probably go top 2 rounds or so on the offensive line. Baker Mayfield has the much better team, and his stats reflect that. Whereas you look at Lamar Jackson, I honestly can't name. They had like a decent wide receiver. They probably don't have anyone draftable on that offense outside of him. You have like Radcliffe, the running back. Others, like Lamar Jackson was Louisville. I watched 3 Louisville games. In every game, it was Lamar Jackson taking that game over and winning it. And he would have had way more passing touchdowns. He only had 25 on the year. I can't count the amount of crucial drops his players had on the Louisville Cardinals throughout this season. And I just personally think that maybe Lamar's not getting the type of respect he did. Maybe he's getting kind of the Tom Brady treatment. Kind of, like I said, this is really just because it seems so clear. Such a clear comparison between the NFL MVP race and this, where Lamar Jackson won the Heisman last year. So again, maybe give another guy a shot. Clearly his stats, and in terms of his importance to Louisville, might be a little bit more than Baker Mayfield. He already got his award. Let's give it to Baker Mayfield and try to run it. Even though there might be a little controversy coming in because Baker Mayfield has some off-the-field antics that, you know, depending on how prude the voters want to be, they might hold that against him. Like everything that he did, he had that off the field, I think he got like a DUI or something like that, or he ran from the cops, and then he had the whole thing against Kansas where he flipped them off and got suspended for a couple drives. But personally, I think Baker Mayfield is going to win it because, again, man, his team made the playoffs. You could probably argue a little bit that Oklahoma played difficult teams, more difficult teams, and the fact that their stats were pretty close, and you definitely had to give the slight edge in terms of competition to Baker Mayfield. He is my MVP, but my sake of this video is just there's a legitimate argument that Lamar Jackson is more valuable than what Baker Mayfield is, and if you're really giving the Heisman based off of that the most outstanding player, could you give it to Lamar Jackson? Is he not getting enough respect? Is he the Russell Wilson of the college football Heisman debate? I think the similarities are kind of eerie, but I don't know, maybe I just have my tinfoil hat on too tight. Let me know what you guys think. I already asked you guys on Twitter, but again, I can, you know, get at me in the comment section below. Thank you guys for watching. If you guys like these quick, you know, sub 10 minute, oh, I don't get the double ads, but the sub 10 minute quick football take type videos, I will continue to do them. The only reason why you're getting 2 today is because my channel's been getting hit with demonetization strikes left, right, and center. So I'm going to try to go back to a more traditional video to see if the system leaves me alone. So hopefully you guys get to see a nice little 5-second ad there, and I made, you know, $10 on this video, give or take. But yeah, let me know who you guys think is winning the Heisman race. Do you guys think Lamar Jackson's getting slept on, or is it Baker Mayfield's outright? Let me know. First time stopping by, don't be afraid of that subscribe button. And until next time, it's C4 saying peace out.